it was such a hot day. And like I remember Natalie, like my cousin, who was doing my makeup, she's like, oh my God, you're dripping, you're smudging, and it was still a pretty stressful.
But having the full pirate dress really made me, I guess, appreciate what pirates had to go through in that kind of outfit, in that kind of weather.
I don't know, like 2-3 months of working just on Titanic. It was not Titanic work.
April, my character, she's going from door to door, and she's kind of like opening the doors, and each door has something, a different adventure for her, if you will. And these adventures are meant to symbolize, different challenges and experiences that she has, and also to kind of tell you a little bit about like who she is as a character. Establish she's a little bit stubborn, she's a little bit capricious, she's a little bit naive, she's a little bit of a fool, if you will.
Yeah, Titanic was interesting because of the fact that we wanted to make it like a waltz. I think there was a sense of eeriness with it coming off the back of Anchorage, being where Anchorage had a very deep kind of spacey sound. Following it up with essentially a waltz was an interesting turn of events, musically speaking. So I think what made the most sense was to really create that tension for the rest of the record now, where the waltz could really set a tone for something eerie and ominous, and especially with the clocks and the effects we had started to bring in during Titanic. That, I think, started a reoccurring theme that we had throughout the production of the record of starting to include these audio cues.
It's kind of to set the tone, because Titanic, even though it's the second song on the album, you can think about it as the first song. If Anchorage is a prologue or almost like an introduction, Titanic is chapter 1, right? Titanic is, the flashback to this is where the story starts. So April's going down the corridor, opening the doors, and she's having all these adventures. Like each door, it's this ship is not your ordinary ship, right? There's a bit of magic behind each door.
Nico me dijo, necesitamos hacer una puerta que se pare, que esté parada en medio de la playa, en medio del bosque, en medio de la calle, en medio de Bricol. Era una puerta que tenía que tener vida propia, y que esa puerta yo me la ideé de tal manera que la estabilidad estuviera abajo. Entonces eran unas maderas que yo le hice para allá y para acá. Entonces cuando se paraba la puerta, solo se abrían las maderas y ya quedaba la puerta bien estable.
It was a monster. I didn't know where to start. So, I remember doing the storyboards of that one. I spent like 1 month just doing the storyboards.
We shot the scene where she's getting on the boat. I was so nervous for that day because Richard and John, the actors who played the captain and the first mate, they were so good.
We were in Bayfront Park, and I remember Valerie not being so convinced of my idea, like, let's just go and see what happens, because we need a Titanic, essentially. So I was like, you know what, there's a lot of resources right now to add the ship, to look realistic.
I remember thinking like, wow, that came out it just came out so nice. Like it just came out so realistic, and the expressions and everything. So it was a lot of fun that day, albeit stressful.
The challenging part was to get the sense of to be in a transatlantic, and we we realized that essentially it's like a hallway in an apartment complex, pretty much. Like looking for references, it's pretty much it. The only thing that I guess it was different, it was the doors, you know. So I had nightmares with one of the scenes, which is the desert one. It was the first world. Okay, so is there a desert in Florida? But no, probably yes, but I couldn't find it. So I was like, what should we do? What should we do? I was like, you know what? There's so many, there's technology that we can use. I'm gonna risk everything, and if it goes wrong, I'm gonna tell Valerie like, hey, she just went to the beach. That's it. That day, we were so happy when we wrapped the day, which was one of the worst days ever because of the weather, because of the bugs. It was terrible. Plus, you have the camera, the sand, and the lenses. It was stressful.
So she opens the door, she's like in the desert, and she like finds this ring basically in the desert, and this kind of sets off a chain of events with this ring that I'm actually wearing right now. So that day I remember it was really hot, and it was such a hot day. And like I remember Natalie, like my cousin, who was doing my makeup, she's like, oh my God, you're dripping, you're smudging, you know, and the makeup held up pretty well, but it was still a pretty stressful.
So in the beginning, I was like a little lost because I didn't know exactly what a music video was. I thought it was just like filming and just, having fun. But like my first impression, the behind the scenes, I was like, wow, this is like a lot. Like it takes a lot of planning, and I didn't know that. Like I thought it was just like you get a camera, you shoot, and that was just the end of the video. One of the experiences was the beach day. That was so much fun, but it was too hot, Live in Miami, we have the humid, that's expected. So we were trying to do her makeup, but every 5 minutes, just sweat, no matter how much powders and concealers to touch up, just her makeup was not staying on, and it was just very difficult to work with, but we made it work at the end of the day.
And I remember Lucas was chasing me down the beach, like on this very hot, like summer day, like in full like pirate costume.
The weather is very unforgiving in that sun. We were fortunate to have shade and some trees and a little canopy, but having the full pirate dress really made me, I guess, appreciate what pirates had to go through in that kind of outfit, in that kind of weather. So that was pretty tough, just kind of sticking out the weather pretty much.
I mean, it's still like, even if it's the worst day, you're still doing like things you like, no? So yeah, it was horrible. I would never go to the beach again.
She leaves the desert, and then she's like, this ship there's something different about this ship. She's like, let me try another door. I don't know about you, but if that's me, I'm going back to sleep. But she tries another door, and the second door is the city. So in the city, she's kind of like, what's this? Like, this is different. She's walking through the city, and then the pirate finds her in the city, and he's like, give me back the ring. And so there's kind of like this like little fight scene, and this character who we haven't met yet, Ryuji, she doesn't know it yet, but you just kind of see like an altercation between two characters for the ring.
I think fighting in the streets of Miami, I think a bit of it was the absurdity of being dressed as a pirate in the streets of downtown Miami, having to get into this brawl, in the middle of the street. I just found that funny. I think that was funny looking back on it, but I think it was really fun too. I think it was fun to, it's like now there's not only the performance for the video and for the film, but in a way too, like it's like I had an audience, I had downtown Miami watching me, I had the cars and the people going by. So I'm like, okay, I'm really selling this now.
So the actor who played Ryuji couldn't be there on the day that we shot that altercation between Ryuji and the pirate, but he's a similar height and like appearance to my husband. So we actually had my husband George fill in and just didn't like show his face and didn't show any of that.
I'm actually like beyond extremely offended that you didn't call me back to Miami to film my 5. Like, wow, guys, unprofessional. I was just genuinely confused. Like, why is there someone else on the screen with the same clothes that I was wearing? And then literally, like, Valerie tells me, like, oh, that's George. And I was like, oh, what? What do you mean that's George? He's like, no, yeah, like, we didn't want you to come out. And I was like, and I appreciated the gesture. I was like, I'm very happy you guys didn't make me come out for like 5 seconds of footage. But I thought it was just really funny. I don't do stunts. Well, I do, but not for this project.
I don't know. I'm such a fan of the primal cinema when it's just images telling you the story rather than dialogue. And I think we built it up we have this whole thing with Valerie and this ring she had. It was like a visceral segment of the video, I would say. And of course that new music was key to succeed in that.
I wanted to feel inevitable, essentially, with that character. And so when I came to scoring that section of the film, I wanted to create that feeling of inevitable. So I played with the clocks ticking in the back of the song, which are already kind of in the piece of music of Titanic itself, but I kind of pulled out more of that, created more of the tension with the lower bass notes and the twinkly toy pianos that we had on top of that, to really create not only a sense of tension, but this sense of ethereal interdimensionality to it, where there is this pirate, but there's also this sense of fantasy to it. And now there's this piece of film that I need to essentially fill in the gaps with musically. But I have such a good foundation for the emotion of it. Not only do I know what the music is trying to say, I know what the character is trying to say very personally.
April loses the ring and she's like, maybe I can find it in the third door. Third time's beyond the third door. Third time's the charm, right? So she opens the last door and she's in like a jungle and she sees the pirate and she sees like, you know, he's kind of frustrated and then she's like kind of frustrated because he goes to like his like treasure chest and he can't find the ring. And then she's kind of like stalking him almost, like she's like, where's the ring? And she can't find it either. And so she kind of just gives up. She's like, I had this adventure, but I lost. Loved it, I lost. And she just goes back, back into her world. And she's like, I lost the ring. I started off kind of worse than I came in because I not only lost the ring, but I, got into this fight. Now I'm all confused and I don't really understand what my world is about anymore. And so in this state, she stumbles upon the final door. And this is room 1945.